It's been a really bad week for Trump, this, isn't it? I feel it's just been the worst week, and we're all so upset about it.
Here we go again. The ladies on The View. Come on. Come on. Of course, anything in Trump world that they can spin as it's over, Trump's lost, they're going to take that opportunity and they're going to seize that, and that's what we're seeing here.
When he was getting roasted by the National Association of Black Journalists the other day, he was asked about choosing J.D. Vance as his VP, who has had a disastrous rollout, 24% approval rating. Ha! Watch.
When you look at J.D. Vance, is he ready on day one?
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact. You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think J.D. is. I think that all of them would have been. But you're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for me.
I love it. Hey, I love that. I love that response from Trump. Because there are people who are upset about J.D. Vance, and there are people, even on the right, who are upset about J.D. Vance. But listen, not my top choice, but it doesn't matter. I love that, man. It doesn't matter. I'm in office. I'm the leader. All right? Yeah, that's dope.
Does he have amnesia or something?
Well, the problem is...
we're right in the middle right now about how important the vice president is.
Yes, because the vice president is the person that is at the top of the Democratic ticket for president right now, and is probably going to kick his butt.
And there was an assassination attempt on his own life.
Yeah.
And
he's old. Está viejísimo. The oldest man to ever run for president now. Un anciano.
I love this. Hey. 2 weeks ago, Whoopi Goldberg gets on there and she says, oh, you're going to talk about how Joe Biden's old? Oh, what, about him pooping his pants? Who cares if he pooped his pants? Now, 2 weeks later, oh, but he's old. He's old, man. He's so old. You guys literally just rally behind Sleepy Joe. And where has Joe Biden been? Does anybody know where Joe Biden's been? Because it's like Kamala runs for president and nobody knows what happened to Joe Biden. Nobody's heard anything from Joe Biden. I haven't even seen him. I haven't even seen him stutter, slip, fall, poop, nothing. So let's not play the old card now, you freaking hypocrites.
It's crazy.
It's also kind of rich for him to argue it doesn't matter because he arguably won in 2016 because Mike Pence helped boost him with evangelicals. He needed to pick somebody who had even the slightest bit of appeal with moderates and independents, and he did not do that with J.D. Vance.
He went the other way.
He's the first VP nominee to have a net negative favorability coming out of his convention, and it's gone down since. He came out with -6 points. Now it's -15.
Yeah.
This is the guy who calls us, childless cat ladies. And the thing with him is there was no vetting clearly because there will be even more tapes of him saying crazy, polarizing, divisive things.
And weird things.
And weird things.
That was like 2 years ago.
But
I said...
But how could he say that the vice president is not important when Mike Pence was his vice president and helped save our democracy?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like...
That's how dumb he is.
But I would also say
He's not
that
smart.
when we watch Vice President Harris as she enters this and who she's looking at all moderates and centrists. And I said that's a brilliant move, not only because I happen to be more of a centrist, but because when you look at the voting population, that's actually where the majority of Americans lie. And Trump doubled down by picking someone more extreme than him. So to me, they're both speaking.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? J.D. Vance more extreme than him? Are you serious? Because he says, like, single cat ladies, he's more extreme? Really? That's what's happening right now? I am blown away. I am just blown away at this analysis of J.D. Vance and how poor it is, how bad and how disingenuous it is just to try to sway the audience of 80-year-old grandmothers to vote for Kamala. I mean, it's truly despicable here. I like the policies that come out and that are pretty fringe for America, for the Christians, for the beliefs of the founding fathers, and I haven't heard anything about J.D. Vance. I've only heard rhetoric, and I've only heard him say some things that I thought were kind of funny, at the most a little funny, nothing radical.
To you through the way they're looking at their vice presidential picks.
Yeah, well, look, let me see how I couch my points.
Okay, careful, careful.
J.D. Vance. Okay, so I think that if J.D. Vance was one of Trump's wives, he would have already cheated on him. Because he has been a disaster from the get-go. As Alyssa just said, there's usually a honeymoon period after the convention, and he has had zero. And it's been on both sides, because on the one hand, he's antagonizing cat ladies, calling childless people sociopaths, and on the other hand, there's all of this information that has been released of the things he said about Trump, on him saying that he hated the police. So I think,
and then he called Trump America's Hitler.
Yes, he did. Neither of the sides.
That's hard to come back from.
So honestly, Kamala Harris, I think, needs to pick somebody that does not hurt. I think most people don't vote on the vice president unless it's a really bad vice president, and then that does hurt. I mean, but at this.
So here's the interesting part. This is the last take before we finish out the clip that I'll give you guys. The reason why appealing to moderates and independents doesn't work is because they're moderates and independents mostly because they hate Donald Trump. Okay. And this hatred of Donald Trump is only because of brainwashing, because of media brainwashing, like from the ladies on The View. But there are people who are skeptical of Donald Trump and his love of power, who are conservatives, who are Christians, and who look at J.D. Vance as a pick, and they think that, hey, J.D. Vance and his analysis of Donald Trump, his analysis of Donald Trump's ego, this is somebody who could potentially keep Donald Trump accountable, hold him accountable, and hold him to where he doesn't go egomaniac. And believe it or not, I have heard this, and not from just like random people that I don't, respect their opinions, from friends of mine who, one of them happens to be a lawyer, saying this to me about J.D. Vance. And he's not saying that he's 100% on board with J.D. Vance, but he's saying that, listen, this does make sense to some degree. And so, I think that it works with the people who can see clearly, but it doesn't work to the moderates and the independents who can't see clearly. And I think, sadly, that's about 90% of them. 90% of them they would be voting for the Republican this year if it wasn't Donald Trump. At
this point, Kamala could pick Trump's friend, Hannibal Lecter, and it would be better than J.D. Vance.
But didn't basically Trump pick Vance because he knows that he would not certify the election?
He would certify.
He would not certify.
I think that's
the way
part of
Pence
it.
did.
I think he's a yes person. I think he wanted to make sure that someone would fall in line and not do the right thing like Vice President Mike Pence did. And I also think he just had the hubris not to pick well or vet well because he figured he had it in a landslide.
Everything in life is timing. And, when he made this choice...
He also kissed his butt bigger than the other guy.
Remember, he made this choice after Biden's disastrous debate and after the assassination attempt.
So he's full of himself.
So he was riding high because I think if he had felt more pressure, he might have looked at Nikki Haley. He might have looked at Marco Rubio. There were a lot of people pressuring him to do that. Yeah. But he wanted the sycophant of sycophants. And this is what happens, folks, when you take Donald Trump Jr.'s advice. You end up with J.D. Vance.
But you know what? The other vice president that mattered, I think, was Sarah Palin. That was a lot
of people did not vote for John McCain because of
Sarah Palin. So for the presidential nominee on the Republican ticket to say, the vice president he doesn't have to be ready on the first day, should scare Republicans.
Well,
but
not a ringing endorsement.
Doing anything.
But also, a lot of these sort of protest voters in Republican primaries are national security voters. They're people who back Nikki Haley because they care about things like supporting the war in Ukraine. J.D. Vance is to the far right of Donald Trump on that. He literally said, I don't really care what happens in in Ukraine while Ukrainians are being slaughtered. So I think that a lot of those disillusioned, exiled Republicans are looking to who Kamala Harris's VP pick is. If it's someone like a Josh Shapiro, who they see as moderate, I think a lot are going to hold their nose and vote for a Democrat at the top of the ticket and vote for Republicans down below.
Or a Mark
But are there
Kelly.
any that aren't moderate? Because everyone I've seen so far looks pretty moderate.
I think the Mark Kelly, the Josh, she really is leaning into that. The only one I don't agree with is Tim Walz, mostly because I think she'll win the state outright.
And that's what she went with. That's what she went with. That freaking creeper right there, man. That dude is straight up scary. And by the way, too, I think this is funny. All white men except for Shapiro, who's Jewish. All of these are white men. So very interesting lineup. And you pick this old creep Waltz. I mean, that's just scary. That's scary. That's sketch. I hate that. And if people were voting for the president based off the vice president, this guy is freaking, I mean, I wouldn't. Talk about Joe Biden vibes from this dude, seriously. Anyways, guys, that's all we have for today. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Hey, and like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, and check out our merch, too. All right.